Greetings everyone, this is A Shot of Whiskey, and I hope you all are ready for another video dedicated to eviscerating an anti-MGTOW simpleton. That's right, this is my response to Plank to Failure, a boy who supports contractual slavery. And I know I previously verbalized that my publication goal was to have this out by the end of January, but I got into thinking, since this is addressing an anti-MGTOW, I elected to have my refutation be made available for observation either on or just before International MGTOW Day, known amongst the normies as Valentine's Day. I would also like to point out that for this year's International MGTOW Day, I will be financially and chronologically submitting myself to the female gender.
You putrid traitor!
To clarify, I will be spectating and possibly staffing at a girls' wrestling tournament. I want to support the scholastic teams that I announced for, both for the boys and for the girls. The boys' tournament was last weekend, in case you were wondering, and yes, I did go to that one as well. My school placed second out of 8 teams, and now my voice sounds like this. So there you have it. I will be paying to be at a high school for a girls' wrestling tournament, and not for the intention that Mikey Boy, aka Mike Gimson 1984, would have if he were attending.
That's what I love about high school girls. I keep getting older, they stay the same age. Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
Now that my justification has concluded, let's concentrate on the video I will be responding to, which is titled, MGTOW Makes Men into Boys. Before I go over the points that Littlewood attempted to make, I want to emphasize that his slanderous video is 15 minutes of delusional gibberish. He makes up a story about a 12-year-old boy, whom he names
Timmy.
In all honesty, the age that Littlewood appointed Timmy to be struck me as appropriate. For those of you who have been following my content, you should be cognizant of the verity that I am a father. My singular progeny is a 12-year-old boy. Well, he was 12 when Littlewood posted his deception. Now, my son is a teenager.
It's time to stop. It's time to stop, okay? No more.
After 6 minutes of Timmy being 12, the story skips forward 15 years. Now this imaginary child is 27, and apparently this concocted character never grew up. So even if Littlewood's tall tale was a true anecdotal narrative rather than a comically sloppy piece of anti-MGTOW fan fiction, the title is misleading and inaccurate. But what about the specifics, you may be wondering? Don't worry, I'll be presenting those in a moment.
And if I don't get it, I'm going to scream!
If there is any question as to why I have selected this particular anti-MGTOW video, it's because Littlewood responded to the initial comment I made in his comments section, challenging me to controvert his claims. I'm going to take this opportunity to supplement a timestamp over the whiskey glass here in my main picture. You know, for anybody watching who just wants to hear Littlewood's philosophically magnificent final claims. In other words, what he feels are foolproof counter-arguments against MGTOW.
All hands, battle stations.
For the first 6 minutes of Littlewood's video, the term MGTOW is never mentioned. Instead, the story he tells is about 5 minutes of a preteen who allegedly has a strong enough libido that flirting with girls is all he cares about. Do y'all remember what his name is?
Timmy? I don't know, Timmy. Just play along. Timmy!
Correct. Ouch. However, Timmy is unsuccessful in his juvenile pursuit of underage puniti. So who does this demented degenerate turn to for counseling? Not his male parental unit. No, that's too logical and too convenient for Littlewood's narrative. No, according to Littlewood, the main character of this fictional account had his underdeveloped brain warped by the red pill, or more accurately, Littlewood's inaccurate interpretation of what the red pill is.
The cheese man is very disappointed in you.
This is where the 15-year time dilation occurs. Littlewood summarizes the chrono jump in 1 minute, pointing out that Timmy is now a 27-year-old McDonald's employee who is still somehow capable of getting his immoral pee-pee touched by innumerable thoughts thanks to what the internet calls pickup artists, or as we who know better will more accurately refer to them, dating roaches. It is also within this minute of monologuing that Littlewood mentions Timmy's parents, saying they desire for Timmy to be affianced with someone and eventually marry them.
Yuck. I can't marry her.
Ignoring the fact that this has nothing to do with MGTOW, I wish to address 4 specific claims that he makes in this section.
It doesn't matter what community he goes to. It doesn't matter if he goes to a religious community, because it's never even occurred to him that he could go to a religious community, because, of course, Timmy's an atheist. He spends too much time gooning to pray.
Does anyone else find it disturbing that Littlewood is fantasizing about the gooning habits of preteen boys? Okay, let's give this delinquent the benefit of the doubt. Timmy just wants to spread his seed, and whether he sees himself as a non-religious heathen or a devout follower of Jesus Christ, he should understand that he is more likely to succeed in relieving himself if his intended target is anywhere other than at a church. Now, a logical argument could be made that a Christian congregation might be a rational option for any Timmys out there who want to find a potentially decent girlfriend, but not if he wants to behave like a mindless animal.
Next! What's your name, kid?
Well, the ladies call me the Loin King. But you can call me
Timmy!
He needs a way to let it out, because he's an immature, chronically online 12-year-old. How is he going to do this? And the answer to that is promiscuity. Because setting aside his lustful instincts to really leave women completely out of his life would require Timmy to display a very high level of self-control and maturity, something that almost nobody in Red Pill spaces is ever able to show.
That is just slanderous gobbledygook. Now, I will give him some latitude. He did say almost, but I guarantee that he is including the grifters and chiselers who rely on the Red Pill label and many of its talking points, as is typically the case when conversing with mindless outsiders who toe the societal line, whereas I do not. Most red pillars, those whom I consider to be genuine, would discourage this sort of behavior, especially when discussing a 12-year-old.
Sick freak! No!
And thus none of these ladies have any opportunity to trap him, to screw him over in the divorce courts, which he's hearing from all these red pill influencers happens in every single marriage. It never really ever works out.
I will concede that I may have heard an exception to what I'm about to say, but I have never heard a red pillar claim that all marriages fail. Factually speaking, every single one has stated the complete opposite. The closest thing to this imbecilic claim that I have heard, which is unequivocally true by the way, is that all marriages have the potential to fail and have the potential to screw the man over in the divorce courts and family courts. Oh, and as well as the final point I will be addressing from the first segment.
Even though it's actually only like 50% and that's among secular marriages?
No. That stat reflects all American marriages, including those among Christians. Now, it is true that most of those are among the secularists, but to deny that Christian marriages ever end in divorce is a lie, which violates the 9th commandment. I guarantee that every single church in America today has at least one woman who has been divorced at least once, with most taking place while being a member of said congregation. And here's the funny thing, Littlewood. Every single red pillar has pointed out this stat. What you said earlier about us declaring all marriages ending in divorce, we are the ones who have been pointing out this ratio for years. We have also been pointing out the statistical fact that says about 70% of all divorces are filed by the woman, as well as the one that exposes how 1 out of 3 paternity-tested children do not belong to the alleged father. But sure, keep pretending that MGTOW has never acknowledged the 50% stat.
Shotgun. Shotgun. I said it first. What, are you copying me now?
The next 3 minutes of Littlewood's video can be summed up as him attempting to shame MGTOW by saying things devoid of reality because he has no idea what MGTOW truly is, or him implementing shaming language, a tactic typically used by those who rely on emotions because they lack a factual, logical argument. To paraphrase, he says that wanting to seek self-improvement makes you selfish and childish, and that the only way to be an adult man is to sacrifice yourself for others by getting married and making grandbabies for your parents, because that's the only way you can make a positive contribution to society. Oh, and he keeps bringing up Andrew Tate because he is so unfamiliar with MGTOW that he doesn't realize that MGTOW and Andrew Tate don't see eye to eye. Enough so that Tate talks shit about us and we talk shit right back at him.
Your name means duty!
So Timmy is thinking along these lines, and he's just going about his life, living his days, well, living is a strong word, lurking his days in his parents' basement.
Yeah, more shameless shaming language from this obedient sheep. What I find somewhat entertaining about this new development in the Timmy saga is that it sounds more applicable to incels who were raised by their single moms. Though, to be fair, I'm almost certain Littlewood doesn't know the differences between MGTOW and incels.
Gooning and watching red pill content.
Assuming that Littlewood is watching my response, I want him to realize that many MGTOW disagree with gooning. Some of us see it as a waste of time that damages the soul and mind of the one engaging in it. And yes, Littlewood, many of those MGTOW are also opposed to gooning because of various passages in the Bible. Because, believe it or not, many of us are Christians.
When he encounters the first serious problem in his MGTOW journey, his dad knocks on the door. "Come in," says Timmy.
Level out, come on!
"Are the tater tots and the taquitos ready?"
As a reminder, at this point in Littlewood's delusional take, Timmy is 27. There is nothing that has taken place here that factually suggests Timmy lives the life that he lives on account of watching MGTOW content. But it does suggest that Timmy's parents, especially his father, have failed to prepare Timmy on how to be an adult. Allow me to provide an example, which you can call an anecdote if that helps you feel better.
Anything else I can get you? Cold beverage?
My father has been living with his third wife for about 7 years now. She has an adult son whom she has coddled since he was an infant, and as such, he also lives with my father. Now, he is about 24 or 25 years old and has never had a profession. To make things even more interesting, somehow my stepbrother has a fiancée, and she also lives with them. My father has been trying to get my stepbrother to do the responsible thing, which is to obtain employment, particularly so that he can eventually become a provider for his fiancée and whatever imminent offspring they might produce, as opposed to his continued suckling off his mom. My stepbrother, who is engaged, is more of a pathetic lurker than Timmy, and he's about as MGTOW as Littlewood.
Oh, Timmy.
Well, son, I do have your microwave food here, says his father. But there's something we need to talk about. Son, your mother and I are worried about you. You haven't left this basement for 5 days.
Then how is he able to maintain his job at McDonald's? Oops, silly me. I had forgotten that you are a prevaricator. I apologize for the interruption, Littlewood. Please continue.
You smell like crap, and more importantly, I don't know about all this MGTOW stuff you're into.
Oh, so Daddy Smith admits he does not know about MGTOW, much like our narrator. How interesting. I'm going to allow this ignoramus to continue, but I want to take this opportunity to say that if Mr. Smith genuinely loves his son and wants to understand the philosophy that his son has adopted, he will shut his effeminate mouth and listen to the words that are expelling out from the educated mouth of Timmy.
You know, your mother and I, we'd really like you to have a kid or two, a wife, come along with them. You know, that's generally the normal way things go. Maybe a job. I mean, I know that would involve a boss and you don't really like that, but let's be honest, you're never starting a business, so like, please.
So basically, Daddy is whining like a sensitive soy boy. Let's ignore the MGTOW stuff for a moment and focus solely on Timmy, who is no longer working at McDonald's for whatever reason and has not left the house in practically a week. Mom and Dad are enabling it, not MGTOW. Instead, they should be motivating him to do better by threatening to file a legal notice of eviction. However, Mr. Smith is too weak to properly guide or motivate his son.
Now Timmy has another choice to make. The first option that he has is to actually directly engage with what his father is saying, to take the points that his father is making seriously, and to actually sit down and think, is this the path my life should really be on? Even if he's convinced that it is, to sit down and actually consider it and talk it through with his father and maybe come to some sort of grown-up compromise over the matter. But that would require Timmy to be an adult.
You are coping and seething. You just can't accept what you're seeing. Yes, you're coping and seething. The truth is scalding, and now you are molding and coping so hard, coping and seething.
Littlewood, you little hypocrite. Do you expect Timmy to roll over and reject any independent thoughts of his own? Are you going to be a grown-up for the first time in your young life and seriously consider what MGTOW is factually about? What MGTOW genuinely says? Keep in mind, you are claiming that the fictional character dubbed Mr. Smith will make points that you are attempting to create, and that Timmy will not make a single point because Timmy represents your myopic understanding of MGTOW.
So he whips out the good old red pill thesaurus. MGTOW arms young men with an entire lexicon of terms that they can use to refer to other people that basically people only use within their own circles, and a lot of people outside of them only have just now come to understand because of how often they've been used by people in MGTOW and red pill circles, and even then only really use them in a joking way. Terms such as simp, beta, cuck, a lot of insults, 304 for women, and these labels can be applied to any person, such as Timmy's dad, who professes beliefs that you don't agree with, who has a perspective that you see as weak, or as woke, or as some other word starting in W.
In other words, we say things that either hurt your feelings because you have a narcissistic understanding of the world, which entitles you to insult those you don't agree with, and or we say things that your feminine conditioning is incapable of comprehending.
And this frees you from the responsibility to actually engage with the points that any other human being makes, at least if they're points you don't like. because you can just slander them with all of these different terms.
I would say that I hope Littlewood realizes that he is guilty of this very thing, but I know damn good and well that he doesn't.
And a point that's made by a weak, simby, obese, beta cuck 304 blah 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 doesn't have any merit.
This alone proves that you have no idea what MGTOW is, or Red Pill for that matter. The Red Pill is the pursuit of truth. It is not Andrew Tate's online course for getting your pee-pee touched or Myron Gaines' workout routine. This is merely speculation on my part, but I theorize that you have no idea why we call it the Red Pill. If you are truly as familiar with the Red Pill and Andrew Tate as you imagine, it stands to reason that you have heard him discuss how we are living in the Matrix. He did not come up with that on his own either. There is a movie that came out in 1999 called The Matrix. About 37 or so minutes into it, you'll find this scene.
You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
That is what the Red Pill is. Unveiling the truth that in this case, society wants to keep from us. It's not the same thing as believing in conspiracy theories. It's about seeing the uncomfortable, life-shattering truth. MGTOW is nothing more than a modern-day term of internet origins for selecting to be a bachelor, something that has been around for approximately 6 centuries, at least within this specific context. It has also been a term for a university graduate, hence why we have the bachelor's degree, and it also meant a young knight or a squire. And that's not including the French origins of the word before it joined the English vernacular.
Thanks for the history lesson.
You don't have to listen to it. You don't have to take it seriously. This frees you from the responsibility to take anybody that you don't want to hear seriously and actually engage with them like an intellectual adult. And so we see that Red Pill and MGTOW has left Timmy absolutely free from any and all responsibility. He doesn't have to deal with the points his father makes. He doesn't have to accept any responsibility to his community, to starting a family, to the expectations that his parents have of him. He doesn't have any responsibility to actually search for a good woman, because apparently all women in all countries and all communities across all religions everywhere are 304 simp creating whores these days. His only responsibility is to himself and doing what he wants to do, what he feels like doing, what makes him feel empowered. Sounds a lot like the ladies that he so resents for being so feminist, eh?
I decided to have all that babbling take place so that the last few seconds would make more sense, even though it doesn't. Littlewood was just talking for the sake of slandering an ideology he clearly knows nothing about, but I will make this simple, because Littlewood is a simpleton. Feminism is a political movement designed to force everyone to comply with its tyrannical agenda. If you do not submit to its will, your life can be eviscerated in multiple ways. MGTOW is an internet philosophy about choosing not to engage in a specific legal contract, one that Littlewood still has yet to successfully defend.
This example has been a very comedic take on the issue, but in all seriousness, there are plenty of young men in real life just like Timmy, who go on this same spiral, who take their hurt and anger at society and at women, and there are issues with society and women these days. I don't deny that.
Yes, you do.
But they, instead of dealing with these feelings, and instead of actually searching for the right kind of woman, actually coming to some sort of compromise with society overall, they bottle and weaponize that hurt and hang on to it as long as they can in order to build an identity around it.
No, they make the logical decision not to play a game that is rigged against them. You don't understand that because you think like a woman. You are a submissive little utility, and as the old saying goes,
Misery loves company.
Now, I will give Littlewood a small degree of credit here. Many of us older folks who embrace the philosophy do so because we began this journey from a place of pain. But one of the main points of the philosophy's existence is to basically follow the Kubler-Ross grieving cycle, meaning to understand that anger is part of the journey, not the final destination. This would be something obvious to any man who genuinely looked into MGTOW, like Timmy.
Timmy!
Then again, a genuine Timmy would not live his life as Littlewood has described, especially after watching MGTOW content for 15 years. I'm going to skip over his attempt to promote his prior anti-MGTOW slop and his claim that he challenges anything. He also asserts that some of us were calling him a simp and other names in the comments section, which some of those were somewhat accurate, but I'm going to focus on one specific part.
I don't even know who I'm simping for. I've never been in a relationship. I'm pretty damn young.
Typically speaking, if you are simping, it is because you are not in a relationship. Usually, those who simp are simping for a woman they can never have, despite how much money and or resources they give to those women. In the specific case of Littlewood, assuming that his claims of being called a simp are true, it is most likely because he is simping for single women as a whole, fighting like a valiant white knight cuck on behalf of miserable bachelorettes everywhere. He wants us to abdicate our freedom and become the indentured servants of young American women.
I'm literally a goddess.
So you're useful?
I didn't say that.
And I haven't started looking for a marriage yet.
Yeah, and your youthfulness is obvious to those who listen to your incessant belly aching. Now, this next part I find comically terrible, and it's also around this point that those who wanted to skip ahead to the timestamp I gave earlier will be joining us.
I plan to in the future, because unlike a lot of these MGTOW guys, I do acknowledge the responsibility that I have to my parents.
Note how Littlewood claims that he has a responsibility to his parents to get married. What is that responsibility? Well, he never clarifies. Never. Your folks want you to get married? So what? Why should that matter? Should young men choose their professions based on what their parents want? What about where to live? What automobile to drive? What sports team to root for?
We did it! Yes! Yes! We are Super Bowl champions! Turns out everyone who was saying we were outmatched was right. Don't have to decide if you're gonna pass or run it on the 1 yard line if you blow them out. Remember last year. Remember how terrible we are.
He then said society while also flashing in peppermint candy colors and to God in front of his face immediately afterwards. So let's focus on society first. Littlewood, you're an idiot. Do you truly believe that the only way a man can contribute to society, that the only accountability we owe society is to get married? Not only is that completely false, but I can guarantee that you cannot rationalize your theory. Why, according to society, must young men get married? What does society do for those young men? And if some derogatory societal expectation for young men to get married exists, then why doesn't the same expectation exist for young women?
In society, we tell men what they ought to do, and they go do it. But if we tell women what they ought to do and what they should do, they go insane and they think you're being misogynistic. So it's like, men, you need to go to work, you need to make a lot of money, you need to provide, you need to get married, you need to have kids. Women, you can do whatever you want.
That is the most illogical attitude.
Here's another personal example I have that demonstrates my point. The 3 coaches for the boys wrestling team I mentioned at the beginning of this response were all bachelors when I wrestled for them 25 years ago. In Littlewood's defense, one of them did eventually get married, but just like the other 2 coaches, he and his wife, who is the girls' team coach, by the way, have not produced a single offspring. They don't need to. They have made positive, impactful, meaningful changes in the lives of thousands of students and athletes over the last 3 decades.
Tommy, mount Beavis, now!
Help! As for God, you have a lot of nerve to act like you have any place to speak on God's behalf. Cite your sources, Littlewood. You know what? I'll save you the time. There is no passage in the Bible that dictates a young man must get married or be denied entry into heaven. Granted, there are several passages that speak of matrimony as being a common occurrence, such as Genesis 2:24, and even as a good thing, such as Proverbs 18:22. Paul, a man who never married, spoke highly of going MGTOW in 1 Corinthians chapter 7. Of course, he was looking at it from the perspective of going MGTOW for the sake of the Lord, but the fact remains. You can get a simpler summary by focusing solely on verses 8 and 9. Oh, and Jesus also spoke favorably of MGTOW, which you can read in Matthew 19, verses 8 through 12.
Read your Bible, don't just read your Bible. Read your Bible, don't just read your Bible. Stop making excuses.
Finally, he claims that within his religious community, there are good women. Okay, define good woman. What is a good woman, and how do you know that they are good? Can any of them guarantee that they will never divorce their future husbands? Can any of them guarantee that they will submit to their husbands 100% of the way and reject the feminist programming that encourages females to seek a divorce over the most minuscule reason? You know what doesn't exist, Littlewood? A reason for any man who does not hate himself to get married.
Okay then, guess it's my turn.
Here's what you need to understand, Littlewood. You are making the conscious decision to try to convince young men, or even just one young man, to change his mind. The burden of presenting a strong enough case to persuade Timmy to forfeit his freedom and return to the pussy plantation is on you. It is not on Timmy to justify his decisions, nor is it the case that if he fails to do so, he must do what you say.
That's not how it works.
Let's play with some numbers, Littlewood. Within the span of 15 years, because that's what you chose, there are 5,478 days, unless one of those years ends in 2 zeros, unless said 20 year is divisible by 400. I know, it's weird. If Timmy is watching MGTOW content every single day during that period, he would be exposed to thousands of examples and reasons why going MGTOW is the logical decision. Heck, he could potentially be exposed to millions of reasons and examples. Do you know what 1,000,000 divided by 5,478 is? Neither do I, but that's what calculators are for. The answer is 182.54837531.9. You get the idea. Basically, it's 182.55. If he can see 183 examples and reasons why marriage is bad for men and MGTOW is the superior option, then he'll reach 1,000,000. Thanks to YouTube and TikTok and Instagram and Lynn Toller and Maury Povich and the news and Reddit and a whole lot of other sources of information, Timmy can easily hit 183 within one day. If he can find one example per minute, he'd hit this goal in just a little over 3 hours. And I'll demonstrate how quickly that can rack up. A woman admits to cheating on her husband, who was her high school sweetheart. There's one. A news media outlet releases an opinion piece encouraging women to cuck their husbands and belittles men who oppose it. There's two. A 50-year-old woman is getting divorced because her husband discovered that their 3 sons, who are all in their 20s, are not biologically his. There's 3. No-fault divorce exists. There's 4. Within a single minute, Timmy can watch street interviews of young women bragging about easily cheating on their boyfriends and husbands, often including tales of bumping uglies with their man's closest friends or dearest relatives. That alone can include several more examples. And these are not including any personal accounts Timmy may hear about or witness firsthand, such as the consequences of divorce experienced by friends or family, including fathers, siblings, aunts and uncles, cousins, and grandparents. There are even passages in the Bible, the Word of God, that validate the messaging of MGTOW, such as Proverbs 21:19, which warns against quarrelsome women, and Genesis 39 verses 12 through 17, when Joseph faced a false accusation by Potiphar's scorned wife. The point is, Littlewood, Timmy has been finding a lot of this stuff. So Mr. Smith needs to come up with something far more impactful than, I want to be a grandfather. And you? You who has no knowledge of what a relationship is like, let alone a marriage? You truly believe that you are going to sell marriage to Timmy? You've done a lousy job thus far, Littlewood. There were no factual points presented and no logical perspectives made. Even though my response video is about 6 months in the making, I would encourage you to speak with a MGTOW, such as me, and have a genuine conversation. That means listening to him. Listen to his words for the sake of learning and not for finding a quick attempt at making a gotcha moment. You may be young, but you're also a male, which means that hopefully you aspire to be a man. If you want to chat with me, I'm not going to try to convince you to give up on your marital ambitions. In fact, I want you to get married because it is what you want to do. I will simply endeavor to show you that MGTOW is a logical choice, not cowardly and not immature.
Pink fluffy unicorns dancing on rainbows. Pink fluffy unicorns dancing on rainbows. Pink fluffy unicorns dancing on rainbows.
And now that this lengthy video is finally over, never forget that if you abuse alcohol, it will abuse you back. Take care, everyone.